everyone. Welcome to those that are here for the first time, and also welcome back to those that are attending again. And good afternoon. This is our fourth session in this series. So we've been doing this for the last 3 weeks, and now we're into our final session. So good afternoon, and thank you for being here. My name is Chilton Reynolds. I am the coordinator of the Teaching, Learning, and Technology Center at SUNY Oneonta, and also one of the co-chairs for the Adaptive Learning Task Group at the Fact2 Adaptive Learning Task Group. So I just want to say welcome to everybody. And then on behalf of the State University of New York, the SUNY Faculty Advisory Council on Teaching and Technology's Adaptive Learning Task Group, for SUNY Fact2's Examining Pedagogy and Learning in Online Domains Task Group, for SUNY OER Services, for SUNY's Center for Professional Development, and for the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the final week of SUNY's virtual symposium on adaptive learning. For those of you who joined us in the previous weeks, welcome back. And for those joining for the first time, welcome. Over the past 3 weeks, we've welcomed hundreds of participants in order to accurately address questions and provide appropriate individualized follow-up. I'm asking that you utilize the chat feature to pose questions. There's a group of volunteers that are monitoring the chat for each of these sessions. In some cases, questions may be answered directly in the chat. The chat transcript will be reviewed after each week to ensure that all questions have been answered. To reduce background noise for all, I am also asking that microphones remain muted unless otherwise noted. Symposium sessions will be recorded each week and will be made available on SUNY's Center for Professional Development YouTube channel. I would also like to acknowledge the vendors who are sponsoring us, who are here joining us during the symposium. These are Lumen Learning, Realize It, Carnegie Mellon University's Open Learning Initiative, Cogbooks, and McGraw-Hill. Thanks to support from our vendor sponsors, we will also be offering participants ongoing opportunities to win door prizes, along with the opportunity to donate that prize to a student's scholarship at their campus. Participating in these opportunities is optional. Should you choose to participate, polling features will prompt you to do so, and we will let you know throughout the session. And last week winners were Christine Hirsch from SUNY Oswego and Carol Beckley from Buffalo State. And before we move on to this week's content, we want to take a moment to review some of the highlights from the previous sessions. The week 1 highlights included adaptive learning is a solution, not the solution. Adaptive learning provides a synchronous learning experience inside an asynchronous environment. Using adaptive learning as an opportunity to teach and learn in new ways, and faculty choosing adaptive learning platforms should also experience meaningful technological and pedagogical training. The week 2 highlights included Waymaker, which is offered by Lumen Learning and provides students personalized study plans and faculty the ability to easily interact with students. John Kane, a faculty member from SUNY Oswego, uses Waymaker in economics courses offered in varying modalities and with class sizes ranging from 40 to 400 students. Realize It offers faculty the ability to create custom courses leveraging adaptive learning experiences to engage students and increase success. And with demonstrated success in Spanish courses using Realize It, faculty at the University of Central Florida are working to scale the use of Realize It across all language courses. And then in week 3, some of the highlights included Cogbooks utilizes openly licensed content to provide faculty a personalized learning pathway for students. For the first time in his teaching career, Ron Tavernier, a faculty member at SUNY Canton, received unsolicited thank yous from students after switching to Cogbooks last spring for his anatomy and physiology courses. Carnegie Mellon's Open Learning Initiative, operating since 2001, opens learning potential with targeted practice and immediate feedback. And Dr. Eric Sambolik, a faculty member at Tompkins Cortland Community College, uses OLI for his psychology courses for its demonstrated ability to allow students in low pressure ways to understand how they learn. And now let's focus on today's agenda. Today, the spotlight will be on faculty using adaptive learning courseware from one of our vendor sponsors, McGraw-Hill. After this, in our second session, we'll be highlighting some available resources for SUNY considering using adaptive, SUNY faculty, resources for SUNY faculty considering using adaptive personalized courseware, as well as some best practices already in place. So currently we are in our welcome and introduction. In just a little bit at 2:10, we'll have our Meet the Courseware Faculty and Vendor Spotlight Session 5. This will be faculty and student ambassadors with McGraw-Hill. At 2:50, we'll have a spotlight question and answer session with the faculty and McGraw-Hill staff. And then at 3 o'clock, we'll do a transition break time. At 3:05, we'll start our support round table session, which we're calling What's Available for SUNY Faculty. And then around 3:30, we'll have our final closing remarks and thank yous. And we'll also look at where to find the symposium resources and recordings. Just so you know, all presentations and interactions will take place in this Zoom meeting room. As a reminder, the chat feature is a great way to ask questions, either during the spotlight sessions or as part of the dedicated question and answer time after each spotlight. And now I would like to introduce the McGraw-Hill team. McGraw-Hill's Connect platform offers several adaptive solutions. SmartBook 2.0 highlights key concepts and provides links to reading and other learning. Plus, their adaptive learning assignment provides ongoing formative assessment, just-in-time feedback, and a suite of digital resources, including videos, slides, and interactives. Presenting today from McGraw-Hill are Brenda Ausler-White, Jeremy Miller, Sarah Carey, and Mary Ellen Ron. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm really pleased to kick this off, and we have a crew from McGraw-Hill as well as some faculty representation as well as a student who's going to give us a testimonial today, which I think you'll find particularly enlightening. So our agenda will be fairly simple. We'll go in this order. I'm Sarah Carey. I'm the Executive Director for Product Management at Higher Ed, and joined by Jeremy Miller, who's a student at the University of Buffalo, Mary Ellen Ron, who's our Executive Marketing Manager, and she'll introduce our section on ALEKS, and then Professor Brenda White from SUNY Morrisville. So just to give you an introduction to Connect, which is one of our higher ed platforms, Connect is available in over 90 different disciplines. And we currently offer around 700 different titles on Connect. Connect is really an ecosystem, a digital ecosystem that has a lot of different components. And today we're going to focus on the adaptive pieces of Connect. But just to give you a sense of kind of the holistic structure of Connect, we have millions of active students and instructors and active courses across all of these discipline areas in higher ed. So I'm going to touch upon, again, two components of Connect. And when I say components, I'm referring to assignment types. We have a whole suite of assignment types that, again, range across those 90 disciplines. But SmartBook and our adaptive learning assignments are two flavors, let's call them, of assignment types that we offer inside of Connect, and they're both adaptive. They are both built on the same adaptive architecture, and they have slight nuances in the student experience and also in terms of being able to satisfy some of the pedagogical goals that you might have. But really, both of them are grounded in some learning science principles, which I'll touch upon, and they both offer very unique remediation and personalized remediation for students. So every student who comes into either a SmartBook assignment or an adaptive learning assignment is going to have their own unique path. And that's really great because students can kind of work on their own and they have different ways that they might want to learn this material. So I'm going to go over those options and kind of the different paths that both of these can provide. So we have applied some very deliberate learning science principles to both of these adaptive experiences. I'll touch upon the primary four. Deliberate practice, which is basically establishing what does a student know already and what do they have yet to learn. We have incorporated this idea of spacing, interleaving, and chunking, which means that content isn't served up in a linear manner. It's spaced out, it's interwoven, and it's presented in smaller chunks of content. So this will help students really take things from their short-term memory and move it into long-term. And that's through, again, deliberative practice, but also this idea of chunking out the material and really keeping students on their toes. We also have woven in metacognitive theory, and I'll show you exactly what that looks like within our assignment types. In other words, we're making sure that students become more self-aware of what they're learning and how confident they feel about what they're learning, which is an important step. That goes beyond really just taking these assignments. It really is teaching them how to study and how to learn better. And then effortful retrieval. We want to make sure we're minimizing just kind of random guessing, right? And so again, we're keeping students on their toes with a lot of these principles as they're woven into the experience and the adaptive algorithm. So I want to just show you what SmartBook looks like from a student perspective, and then the adaptive learning assignment. Again, these are two flavors with kind of the same experience, but you'll see a slight difference. And then show you really how easy it is to set it up as an instructor. It's kind of you set it and almost forget about it. Students can really work on their own. But what does it look like for a student taking a SmartBook assignment? Again, this is within Connect, so they have other assignments that they would work on as part of the course. But SmartBook is that adaptive, one of the adaptive components. So when you come in as a student, you're going to be welcomed in a very personal way. Because again, the system is going to recognize that it's me, it's Sarah. I'm taking this assignment. As I start into this, it's going to start to gauge where are the areas that I know this stuff already, and where are the areas where I maybe think I know, but I don't actually know that yet, which is great. There are two paths that I can take as a student. I can either start in with reading, if I like reading my textbook, which I used to like as a college student. I can go that path. If I want to start quizzing myself and say, you know what, I think I know a lot of this already, I can jump straight into questions. So again, students can do this on their own, and they can take a couple different paths as they like. Students are going to be presented with a variety of question types. This is just it's a simple multiple choice question, but again, if I know this concept, I can get it right away and go ahead. What the other metacognitive component that I mentioned earlier, though, is an important step. With each question, I can't just answer and move on. I really have to reflect on, yes, I know the answer to this question, or I feel confident, versus, no, I'm not quite sure. And again, the system is registering all of that and collecting that data, not only to tailor the path for the students, but also to give instructors insight as to what are the areas where students feel like they know the stuff, but maybe they don't, and being able to then tailor any sort of change in your course that you might want to use to address those areas. So again, there's feedback built into this. I, as a student, can work on my own. I will know if I get the question wrong or right. And then it's going to give me some pretty immediate feedback, right? This is all provided from our adaptive system. It's not requiring you as the teacher to give them that feedback. So they get it right away. And again, they will have explanations as to why, for example, this particular question might be incorrect. Once I answer a question incorrectly, or if I just feel like it, like I want to, I can always go get some help from the textbook in this case. So SmartBooks are based on our textbooks, and I can go and take a look at the section that particularly pertains to that area that I've just been testing myself on. And what's great is it will focus me here. It'll kind of give me that assistance right in the moment, and then I can go back to answering those questions. So it is a back and forth. I can move between answering questions, reading the text, and I'm getting feedback along the way. So that's SmartBook. And Jeremy, our student, is going to tell us how he's used that in particular. But again, let me touch upon the adaptive learning assignment, which is a slightly different flavor of the same experience. The main difference, to be frank, is that this is not based on a traditional textbook. And so there are, instead of having a text, a traditional text to go along with this self-practice, we have learning resources. So I'll show you a little bit about what that looks like. Again, I'm going to be presented as a student with a couple different paths. I can either start in on testing myself and see how well I know that particular question, or I can go look at learning resources. The advantage here is, again, if I get this wrong, if I'm testing myself and I'm like, yeah, I think I know this, and I get it wrong, it's going to suggest to me, hey, you might need some help, or do you want some help? And then you have a couple of different other paths you can take in that adaptive learning assignment. You can either go view a resource that's particular to this question, or you can even look at all of the resources for this entire assignment. So what that looks like is I can either go here and call this kind of like our library of resources, and I can say, okay, I really need help on this particular subsection of the learning content, and I can go access it there. And what this view will give me, or if I'm coming straight from that question, are a suite of learning resources, not necessarily a text. So we have things like little chunked out presentations that really present concepts in a concentrated way. We have, again, more self-practice, reading a shorter bit of text and then answering a question, checking my answer, along with videos and other types of interactives that are not based in a traditional textbook necessarily, but really are part of this larger ecosystem of learning resources. So that is what the student paths look like in both of these cases. And a very quick snapshot of really how easy it is to just set these up as assignments in Connect, and you can choose whether or not you want this question or this assignment to be worth 10 points, 100 points, and up to you on how you want to weave it into part of your larger course. But the advantage is we give you up front kind of all the material that's available to you. You choose the concepts down to a very granular level on what you'd like to be included in that assignment. It'll give you an estimate of how much time it takes for a student. And then you simply adjust it based on this kind of slider and say, okay, you know what, I only want my students, or I only think they might need 20 minutes or 25 minutes of practice on this particular concept. So once you do that, give it a name, give it a date, give it some points, you're good to go. And again, you can interweave this into the other portions of your course syllabus, your scope and sequence. An important thing to note is that both of these adaptive assignment types are available for students on a mobile app. You can use it on your tablet, but also your phone. You can download it onto your phone. You can actually take your assignments offline. So if your students don't have a strong internet connection, or if they are commuting in the future world, they can download these assignments and take them and practice them on the go. So that's a great feature, especially for students who might not necessarily have a laptop at home, or they might not have good internet. So I'm going to segue over to Jeremy, because I think it'll be really great to hear more about his experience. And Jeremy is in his 4th year at the University of Buffalo studying accounting, and he'll be attending the University of Buffalo for a 1-year master's program upon graduating, and his plans are to become a CPA. So Jeremy has also accepted a full-time offer with a local Buffalo accounting firm upon his graduation. So we wanted to bring him to tell you about his experience with both Connect and SmartBook in particular. So are you there, Jeremy?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So I have been a McGraw-Hill student ambassador, I think, since my freshman year of college. And I have just really loved Connect and everything about the program. I have felt that using these resources in my class has helped me to learn materials better, get a better understanding of what we're learning, and everything like that. And from this, I just felt that they were the best way to go about learning, like in a, I guess in a distant way, like how it's gonna be. So in Connect, all of those tools that Sarah was mentioned previously with the Smart Book and the Connect assignments have helped me immensely. So like, as an example, in the first time I used Connect in college, the professor set it up in a way so that we would have to read the Smart Book and answer those questions before coming to class. So basically, we had to have the chapter read before our first lecture of the week. And then I felt that that was helpful because I was familiarized with material. I understood what was kind of going on. I could really just focus on the lecture and figure out like, okay, I didn't really understand this in the textbook. Like, let me see if she will like touch upon this. If not, like, let's ask questions. And then before the second lecture in the week, we would have a practice assignment where I could kind of like go through, make sure that everything, I kind of was like understanding things as we go, which was also really helpful. And then before the third lecture in the week, those assignments were due. So within the assignments, I felt that because I already hit it in the Smart Book and a practice assignment, I was able to just like figure out what I knew. Also, the thing that I really like about it is the learning at your own pace. I'm the type of student that likes to read the chapter, understand what's going on in the book before I go to class. So having the Smart Book and being able to look back and like say, okay, I didn't really understand like this question. Let's see if I can go back in the textbook, make sure I understand it. And then just, it's more of like a supplement to the lecture, I would say. I really think that having the material outside the classroom, hitting it a bunch of times is really helpful. In terms of, I also believe that the Connect and Smart Book help me to save time. So because, again, we're hitting it so much and learning throughout the week, I feel like when it comes to exam time, I'm not relearning material, I'm reviewing material, which is super nice because I'm not spending hours upon hours studying because I have learned it. I remember it due to like the chunking methods and everything like that. And I also really liked the Read Anywhere app. So like back when we were allowed to travel, I would download the chapters on my phone and I would like, get on a plane and I would do my work instead of like, watching a movie. I would do my work when I was traveling throughout the semester. And lastly, I just want to say that technology in the classroom can be really powerful. As a student in today's day and age, I feel that I wish that some professors would include it. I felt that my grade would have, and my understanding in the classes would really benefit from this type of learning. Last semester, when everything went online, it was a struggle in some classes just because there wasn't this backup. The textbook wasn't available like it was in Connect. There wasn't the support of all the questions and making sure that I understood it myself. And it's so, I just feel that technology is very powerful and I love Connect. I think that it's one of the best options today.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here today. And I'm going to segue over to my colleague, Mary Ellen, I believe, who will introduce Professor White.
Yes, can you hear me? This is Mary Ellen with McGraw-Hill. Okay. I am going to share my screen here. Are you just seeing the PowerPoint slide? Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing one of McGraw-Hill's adaptive solutions with Smart Book. And if we think about our STEM disciplines that we support in math and chemistry, McGraw-Hill ALEKS is really our solution to support the STEM disciplines and prepare students for math courses that can then take them into many of the sciences. And we're going to talk for the next 20 minutes about ALEKS, where ALEKS is an adaptive learning solution that's rooted in 20 years of research and analytics. But really the goal with ALEKS is we're trying to give all students the opportunity to finish together and provide that individualized support. So for math and chemistry, we're going to help instructors get to know each student better and provide that equitable support for all students to catch up and finish. And within this one solution, you have the choice to bring in personalized learning to prepare students, and also the choice of assignments and assessments that will align to your approach. And no matter the course format or however you're teaching your students, face-to-face, hybrid, or online, with ALEKS actionable insights from day one and beyond, you're gonna have more time to get to know your students and create those very meaningful light bulb moments that are super important. So just a little bit of background on ALEKS. It was developed by cognitive scientists, software engineers, and mathematicians and educators who wanted to break the mold of standardized assessments in traditional classrooms. So using groundbreaking research in knowledge space theory, in partnership with UC Irvine and NYU, these pioneers in adaptive learning have designed an efficient way to measure students' knowledge, to provide them with a personalized and meaningful learning experience. So as you're learning math topics, everything starts to build. As you're learning chemistry, it all builds. And ALEKS is on the back end analyzing how two topics connect and relate, and making sure that we can, make inferences. If one student knows how to do XYZ topic, we can make a lot of inferences on what else they know. So we're trying to really maximize that and create an efficient learning path. So we're not boring students or overwhelming students, and we can provide that individualized support that they need. So ALEKS started first as theory, knowledge space theory, and then it was turned into a product, and we've continued to refine and develop over the last 20 years. And the first experience students have in ALEKS is an initial knowledge check. This is an adaptive diagnostic where for years and years we've been analyzing how we can understand what students already know, what they don't know, and then really focus in on what they're prepared to learn. So all students come in, they take an initial knowledge check for their discipline. The instructor chooses the topics that this is covering. And within 30 questions, because of the years and years of data, we've been able to really fine tune and kind of figure out that knowledge state that each individual student's in. So some students might be coming in with 10 topics, some students might be coming in with 40 topics that they already know, especially as courses are continuing to be confined in co-requisites. And we celebrate this. We say, great job, Mary Ellen, or great job, Dave. You already know some topics, and we're not going to have you show us that you already know that. We're going to, take what you already know and make sure that we're providing you on a path that you're prepared and you can focus. And so the learning experience in ALEKS is a combination of learning and assessment. And we focus a lot on that retrieval practice as students are continuously getting progress assessments, which we call knowledge checks. So students have that initial knowledge check, then we prepare them, and we only are gonna give them content that they're ready for. We know the prerequisites that students need to be successful, and we're gonna focus in their path. They're gonna then practice the topics, and then we're gonna make sure that they know those topics through another assessment, and then we're gonna provide positive reinforcement along the way, and then they continue the path. So it's really this cycle of learning and assessment, and I'll show you that here in a second. So once students take that initial knowledge check, they're working through an adaptive assignment that the instructor has built for them. They wanna work through potentially 20 topics. ALEKS is only going to make students work on the topics that they haven't already shown an understanding for, and they're going to present the topic that students have the prerequisite knowledge to be successful. So the first topic that I see in my homework assignment that the instructor has assigned, in here is going to be lines and functions finding the slope. I'm most prepared for that, so that's what I'm going to work through. And some topics might be locked because I'm not ready for them. So if we were to look at how the efficiency of ALEKS across all courses, the topics that ALEKS shares with students, 94% of the time the student learned that topic. So over the years, we've really been able to refine and make sure that the learning rate is as strong as possible. And what learning means in ALEKS is that for this topic on slope, I'm going to be asked to work through that topic 3 or 4 times in a row without help. So the question is going to be an algorithm, and we tweak the algorithm so students really can't game the system. And ALEKS wants to make sure that I'm not going to game and just use the help function throughout. So it's looking for 3 or 4 times without help in a row. So for one student, they might be working through a question or a topic 8 times. For another student, it might be 4 times. And that's really, you know, where ALEKS comes in to support instructors and provide that individualized support that each student needs to truly learn the material. And as we continue to evolve to support a variety of course formats, in addition to these adaptive assignments that you can create in ALEKS, we continue to add more choice to be able to support your approach. And more recently, you can also assign non-adaptive assignments to support potentially test review or quizzes or to align with the department final. And you can pair the adaptive with non-adaptive assignments to support your approach and reach the students as you need to, especially if you're doing a co-requisite, or maybe you just want adaptive at the beginning of your semester to support the prerequisite skills that you really want to be hitting home on. Maybe you want that adaptive assignments at the beginning of the semester because you know students coming in this fall are going to be a little bit rusty and they need a little bit more preparation as they work through your course. So that's just a visual showing all of the adaptive control and the non-adaptive control all in one single solution with ALEKS. But I want my friend here, Brenda, who joins us from SUNY Morrisville. She's a more recent user of ALEKS, and she's going to share a little bit more about her experience and how this has impacted their course.
Great. Thanks, Mary Ellen. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Super. Okay, thank you. And Mary Ellen, did you want me to share my screen?
I'm happy to go ahead and
Okay.
click through for you just so we don't have to do that. So just let me know when.
Super. Yep, I'm ready for the next one. And again, Brenda White and from SUNY Morrisville, and I see that one of my colleagues from SUNY Morrisville is also here. So great to have you as well. Yeah. So as Mary Ellen said, I am new to ALEKS, but I cannot stress enough to you how happy I was that I undertook changing one of my math courses last semester from a system that I had used in the past to ALEKS, because it really helped me to address some issues in my classroom, including equity, which is very important to me. SUNY Morrisville, for those of you that do not know, we're located in a very rural part of central New York, but we have an incredibly diverse student body as well as programs. So we have everything from nursing and automotive technology to criminal justice, and then a lot of individual studies students. And then we have about 40% of our students from downstate New York City, Long Island area, which was so heavily hit back in March, April. So in terms of equity, ALEKS was absolutely a lifesaver for me for helping all of my students. And I really appreciated the fact that they were able to work at their own pace and it addressed their specific needs. So the individual nature of ALEKS was very helpful for my students last semester. So just a little bit about my course design for the spring 2020 intermediate algebra with trigonometry course that I used ALEKS for. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that I found out about ALEKS last fall with my co-requisite investigation, and I had the opportunity to travel across the country to California, Florida, Ohio, New York City area, Baltimore area. And so I found out about ALEKS from 2 particular folks, one from Columbus State Community College, which Mary Ellen is actually going to talk about later, and then also a faculty member from Valencia College. And what I loved about what they were able to share with me of why they were using ALEKS was, one, they were able to use it in emporium model, and then co-requisite model for both of their campuses. And they were using it in very different ways. And I thought that was very interesting as well. In terms of my course design, I felt like ALEKS was going to be a perfect fit for my flipped course. So my course design starts with pre-work that has videos with embedded quizzes. So my students have to watch their videos. They were very, very good about watching the videos. And then they would do that in a timely fashion before we had in-class work. Now we started as a face-to-face class. So the in-class work, they would work on this material on their own or in small groups or as a class as a whole. The individualized nature of the in-class work also allowed my students that if they were done with their in-class work, they then had time to move on to their ALEKS assignment. And so the ALEKS assignments were objective assignments that would help me further assess their learning and then mastery of materials. So the students loved the fact that they were able to work very independently, but then they had each other and then me as a resource as well. What I fully appreciated and was thankful for was I had really a seamless transition from face-to-face learning to remote learning, and my students were very grateful for that. So it really took a lot of pressure off of them of, I don't know how I'm going to continue with this class. We had no issues, and every single one of my students finished the course and passed the course. So I felt really successful with that. What I also loved is the sense of belonging that this course design and the work with ALEKS really helped with. And I love this quote on the bottom in terms of remembering that we as instructors, as staff members, we're human too. And what we had to overcome was very overwhelming at times. So the fact that I was able to use ALEKS and be successful with a very challenging semester was something I was grateful for. So using the reports in ALEKS, the first thing that I want to show is this was the end of my semester pie report. So you can see of my 244 topics, my students overall were able to complete 197 for a class average of an 81%. And so for a very challenging semester, I was very, very pleased with that outcome. The different things that you can see in the ALEKS pie report is, as you can see here, you can see progress by class, but then you can also see progress by student. And then by clicking the different slices, you can see progress by particular content area, such as say exponents or trigonometry, etc. The other reports, and I'm going to show you two specific reports that are under the progress reports. Under the progress reports, and I'll show you a sample of my students, you can see their individual time spent in ALEKS. You can see when they've last logged in. You can also see their class progress, either in terms of the percent, as you can see right here. So as a class, I could see that 197 of the 244 topics were completed, but then I can see that for students. I can also see how many topics they have completed, and then also progress made in learning mode. And you'll see the difference in that in a moment. Okay, so here I want to just point out that for a sample of my students, and this is learning progress since last knowledge check. So as Mary Ellen mentioned, when students start their work in ALEKS, they take an initial knowledge check. My students loved that because they recognized I am actually getting credit for things that I'm coming into the class with. So I'm not having to spend time on things that I've actually showed that I have mastery knowledge of. My students appreciated that so much because I had a lot of repeaters. And so they were very down on themselves that first day of, I'm here again. I'm feeling already like a failure. And so their mindset was very fixed of, I feel like I'm going to fail again. So by them taking that initial knowledge check, they were actually able to say, hey, I have some knowledge already, and I feel strong that I'm actually going to be able to succeed. So that was a huge difference for them. And they were actually able to voice that in class openly of, I love the setup of this class because I'm feeling like I am going to be able to succeed, and they did. So here again, learning progress since last knowledge check. So you can see the total time that students spent. You can see when they last logged in. So you can see that many of them had logged in that last week right before the final exam. They really took some great time to make sure that they were studying for the final exam, which does not always happen, as we know. It also talks about their class progress, and this was what I was referring to on the last page. So you can see that the first student there, out of 244 topics, he was able to show mastery of 200, if I do my math right, 23. And so he was very, very successful, and really came into this course with not a lot of confidence. I was so proud of him. On the right-hand side, you can see, this was very helpful to me, topics learned per hour. So the one student right in the middle, he was, yeah, that's very high. And you can also see he worked for 8 hours. At the end of the course, he was determined to raise his grade. So this was literally after the final exam. He said, you know what? I want to improve my grade. So I'm going to spend hours. And I said, go for it. And you can see that he was just, determined to raise his score. So he did a great job there, really increasing his number of topics. And I gave my students a reason to do that, which you can do in Gradebook. You can take the total topics that they have mastered in the pie and actually set that as a part of their course. So if you have 244 topics, if they complete as many as possible of those topics, that's going to increase their overall score, and they appreciated that very much so. On the next page, I want to show you a detailed progress history for just one student. So on the bottom, you can see that this is what the student was able to do for their initial knowledge check. So during class, I gave them time first day to take the initial knowledge check. If they didn't finish it in class, which he did not, he was able to do it outside of class. So I stressed to them, be legitimate about this. So make sure that you take it seriously, because this is going to set up really the rest of your semester. So he was able to at first show mastery of 32 out of the 244 topics. The light blue, you can see, was learning after his initial knowledge check. And so that might have been, he went back in and started working on ready to learn topics, or it might have been on assignments that I had created for all of my students to do. And then about 2 weeks later, he had a progress knowledge check. You can see his growth. And then about a month later, another progress knowledge check, and a month later after that. And then we can see where he finished up. This is a student also that was struggling from day one with personal issues And that was before COVID hit. And then after COVID hit, he had a lot of pressure on him because he had sick family members. So the fact that he persevered, because there were times he was really falling apart, he persevered, he really stuck with it, and you can see the number of hours that he put into this course. And the last thing I want to talk to you about is my experience using ALEKS and why I will continue. So the first thing is it supported my students' needs. It is an adaptive assessment tool, unlike more commonly used tools out there that I have used in the past. So this was very, very different than what I had used in the past because of the personalized experience for my students. And I love the fact that this tool gives students the ability to be reached regardless of their academic background. The next reason is the support that this gives my department in terms of our needs and our goals. A difference from last semester to this is one of my colleagues. We are going to be teaching the same course, and I have developed a master template course that I was then able to link for her. That saved her so much time, especially as a first-time user. So the master template I designed, and then I linked it to her. And then once she accepts it, she can then go in and change anything that she wants to in terms of due dates, adding more topics, her own schedule of events for other assignments such as quizzes, tests, etc. So it can be very individualized, but again, it was a huge time saver for her. And our main goal for trying out ALEKS was, we've been doing a lot of data collection, and we realize we need to make some improvements for our students' sake. So our goal is to improve student outcomes. And that is why more of my colleagues are adopting ALEKS is because we recognize we can improve our student outcomes. And then this needs to support our campus's needs. So we have to increase the number of hybrid or fully online courses because of social distancing. We don't have enough classrooms on our campus for students to be able to have face-to-face classroom format if we're going to meet social distancing practices. So we have to, we wanted to before, but now we have to increase the number of hybrid or fully online courses. And this is definitely a way we can meet that need. The other thing that I love about ALEKS is there is an online testing feature, which is called Respondus, where we can minimize cheating. That is our goal because of the lockdown browser and then webcam monitor. And then finally, another reason I'm going to continue is I want to support SUNY's goals. So as has been mentioned, co-requisite courses. So many of SUNY's campuses are adopting pathways or co-requisite courses in order to reduce the number of semesters students in math have to take before they gain college credit, which is a goal of our campus as well.
Thank you so much, Brenda. So I applaud all of you on the line for everything that you're working to navigate as you're preparing for fall, and then also the tremendous effort you've worked to connect and stay connected with your students. And that's really the goal with the personalized learning and the adaptive learning is, you know, giving you choice to be able to create assignments that's going to work for your course goals, but providing the personalized learning that the students need and that can provide equity and give them that equitable support to make it through and stay on pace with your course. So I know that Brenda will soon have more efficacy to share across your SUNY system. In the meantime, the school that she visited, Columbus State, they've been doing a co-requisite for a couple of years now in math. And they've been able to identify that what they've been doing in that co-requisite course compared to their traditional college algebra course, it's actually closing an equity gap. So if we compare their traditional college algebra course with the co-requisite, they've been able to close a 12-point achievement gap between their African-American students and their white students. So they're really pleased with that. They've also noticed that if an African-American student at Columbus State is participating in 3 or more success initiatives, that will help their retention with those students and their overall graduation rates. So that's the student here on the left, Brianna. She was involved in using adaptive learning for their placement solution. She was part of a student success initiative that was supporting low-income students. And then she was also able to partake in their co-requisite course. And because of those success initiatives, because of the commitment to adaptive learning, she represents one of these students that's been able to close that gap and will continue to support the success initiatives there. And then similarly for Indiana Bloomington in chemistry, they wanted to take a closer look at their intro chem course and see if they could do more of a, an online approach with ALEKS prep. So like a smaller access code where students weren't meeting on campus, they weren't necessarily with an instructor, but they were able to identify that students that were using ALEKS prep in comparison to a full-blown semester of intro chem were able to do equally as well, equally as effective in their gen chem course then. And they noticed this amongst underrepresented minorities who were overrepresented in that intro course to begin with. With ALEKS prep, they're beginning to close achievement gaps there, and they're saving students time and money. So by putting themselves in this ALEKS prep course versus the intro course, they were able to spend a lot less time and a lot less money and not spending on that course. So just 2 examples of how adaptive learning is having an impact for institutions, but then also an impact on these students as we can continue to help them save time and money and get to their college and career goals faster. So that is our presentation for McGraw-Hill Connect and McGraw-Hill ALEKS, and I think we have some time for some questions.
Yeah, I'll just point out, and maybe Brenda, if you can just, I saw you answered in the chat, but the question that came in from Carol around students who might have had to repeat, say anything about the average amount of time. Do you want to just tell a wider group a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I would definitely say that my students saw the payout of putting time into their work. Whereas before, they felt like they were just kind of spinning their wheels and not seeing any payout from the time and effort they were putting in. The adaptive nature of ALEKS, I think, is really the difference. I am currently working with a student right now in a calculus class, a friend of the family, so I'm just doing this to help her. And she keeps letting me know that with the system she's working on, she'll go to view an example. And so it is so focused on the process that she's not understanding one step to the other. So she's getting very, very frustrated. And so that's really the difference that I think my students saw is they can't fake it. They really have to truly understand the material.
Great, thank you. And Carol had put another question in earlier in the chat, and I'll answer on, I think, I'm not sure if it was for Connect specifically or ALEKS. I think I'm gathering maybe it was for a STEM discipline. But Mary Ellen, you can maybe follow up on this. But just in terms of, the question was around how are you guys offering this across more courses? What's the process behind building new courses? And one thing I didn't mention at the beginning, happy to have a little extra time to explain, but in terms of the adaptive components inside of Connect, both in SmartBook and that adaptive learning assignment, again, we're collecting anonymous data from students and using that to further refine not only our current products, but when we build new products, also using that information to really identify, where are their, where is the content strongest, or is it most effective in terms of getting students to the right answer through the process? Which of these areas are least effective? So we can actually analyze when I described the kind of toggling back and forth between the practice questions and going over to the textbook, we know whether or not going back and forth really helps that student answer the question correctly the next time. And so we're constantly analyzing all of our content to make sure that it is getting them to the right spot along that path. And so sometimes we find that there's certain resources or part of the text that's maybe really confusing or we need to change it. So we're able to use data in both really practical ways to refine our content and our product builds. And certainly it also informs behind the scenes the adaptive algorithm that then serves up the content in that unique way for the student. And I would imagine that a similar philosophy from an ALEKS perspective, Mary Ellen, if you want to touch upon kind of maybe more of the new courses and disciplines that you're building out. I know there's a lot on that front.
Yeah, so the ALEKS courses for math support, there's high school courses, there's standalone independent use courses for homeschooling, and then we support pre-algebra all the way through prep for calculus. We do not have calculus yet. That will certainly be down the road. And then on the chemistry side, we support the intro chem, the gen chem course, a prep for organic, and then also just recently the GOB chemistry course. So those are the courses that we have. And then I will just say for students that are preparing for college and preparing for that placement exam this fall, and I know in many places that looks different, we have a product called Math Ready that is taking our placement product, which is a larger initial knowledge check, and then we're able to pinpoint the courses that students will be successful in. We're giving students the opportunity to use Math Ready for just $10 for the first month in order to help them review and refresh and be ready for what's next, whether that's going back to school, whether that's their first experience out of high school and getting ready for that. So we're really trying to provide ALEKS in a lot of different ways in the classroom and then outside the classroom.
Great, thank you.
If I could quickly share as well, one of the things that I absolutely loved is one of my colleagues and I are using the same book for 2 different courses. And so we loved the fact that we could support each other, and we really relied on each other in terms of designing our courses. We did things that are very similar, things that are very different. And we love the adaptive nature of how you can actually construct your courses.
Any other questions from the line? All right, well, I guess I'll turn it back over to our gracious host. Thanks, everyone. And again, want to echo Mary Ellen in saying we really admire the work that you do, and let us know how we can help.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much to all of you. Sarah, Jeremy, Mary Ellen, Brenda, we really appreciate your time being here with us today.
Thank you.
And now we will take a 5-minute break. There is a link in the chat now for the poll time to enter one of the door prizes, excuse me. So if you want to look at that, you can. And otherwise, we'll come back in 5 minutes. It's 3 o'clock right now. So at 3:05, we will start with the next round of presentations.